Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into cryptography. You know, that invisible shield that's protecting pretty much everything you do online, from sending a private message to buying something with your credit card. You know, when you really boil it down, this is the simple, age-old question cryptography has always been trying to answer. It doesn't matter if you're a general on a battlefield or just typing your password into a website, the challenge is exactly the same. How do you keep your information secret even when it's traveling out in the open? So, to really get a handle on our digital world today, we have to go back, way back, long before anyone had even dreamed of a computer. Let's rewind the clock to 18 BC. There's this Greek historian, Polybius, who's writing about some really radical ideas for the time, like the separation of powers. But here's the catch. His father was a pretty big critic of the Roman authorities, so Polybius knew that if his writings were discovered, he'd be in a world of trouble. He desperately needed a way to hide his work right out in the open. And this is what he came up with: the Polybius square. The idea was actually pretty ingenious. To send a message, you just swap out each letter for its coordinates on the grid. So the letter A becomes 11, B becomes 12, and on and on. It's one of the very first cipher systems we have on record. And that, right there, is the heart of cryptography. It's this whole science of taking something you can read, what we call plain text, and just scrambling it into unreadable nonsense, or ciphertext. This simple idea, born out of necessity thousands of years ago, is literally the foundation for all of our modern digital security. Okay, so fast forward a couple of thousand years, and things have gotten, well, a lot more complicated than a simple grid. Today, it really all boils down to keys, and there are two main ways we go about using them. So the big difference really just boils down to the number of keys. On one hand, you have symmetric encryption. That's where you use one single shared key to both lock and unlock the message. It's super fast, but it has this massive, glaring problem. How in the world do you get that secret key to the other person without someone intercepting it? Then you have asymmetric encryption, which brilliantly solves this by using a pair of keys. A public one that you can give to anyone to lock messages, and a private one that only you have to unlock them. And this right here, this is the killer flaw of that one-key approach. With symmetric encryption, every single pair of people needs their own private secret key. So for just 10 people to all talk securely to each other, you suddenly need 45 different keys. For 100 people, you're looking at nearly 5,000 keys. It's a total nightmare to manage. Okay, so the two-key method sounds great, right? It solves that whole key-sharing headache. But it creates a brand new problem. If someone on the internet sends you their public key, how do you actually know it's them and not some imposter pretending to be them? The answer is this huge global system called Public Key Infrastructure, or PKI. Honestly, the best way to think of it is like getting a passport for the internet. There are these trusted organizations called certificate authorities, and their whole job is to verify your real-world identity. Once they confirm who you are, they issue you a digital certificate that basically vouches for you online, tying your public key directly to your proven identity. And inside that digital passport, that certificate, you've got all this key info. It says who you are, who verified you, when the certificate expires, and most critically, it has your public key baked right into it. This whole trust system is exactly what's working behind the scenes every time you see that little padlock icon in your browser's address bar. All right, so we've got secrecy covered, and we've got identity covered. But there's one more giant piece of this puzzle: integrity. How can you be 100% sure that the message you just got is the exact same one that was sent, that nothing was changed, not even a single comma, along the way? And the answer is something called a hash algorithm. The best way to think about this is like a unique, totally tamper-proof digital fingerprint for any piece of data. It's a one-way function, meaning you can't ever get the original data back from the fingerprint. And here's the magic part. If you change even one tiny little bit of the original data, the entire fingerprint changes completely and dramatically. See this string of gibberish? That's a real hash. And what's crazy is, if I went back to the original file and changed just a single period to a comma, this entire string would look completely, totally different. No resemblance at all. It's an unbreakable digital seal. Okay, hold on, because this is where everything we've talked about clicks into place. This is the whole shebang. A digital signature combines that hash fingerprint with our 2-key system. So you write a message, you create its unique hash fingerprint, and then, and this is the genius part, you encrypt just the hash with your own private key. The person who gets it can then use your public key to unlock the hash. If it works, it proves 2 critical things at once. 1, the message hasn't been tampered with, and 2, it could only have come from you. So, with all these incredible layers of protection, you'd think our digital world is basically an impenetrable fortress, right? Secrecy, identity, integrity, we're all good. Well, not so fast. The scary truth is that even the strongest, most brilliant systems can have these massive, catastrophic flaws, and sometimes they're just hiding there, in plain sight, for years. Let's talk about a famous one, the Heartbleed bug. This thing surfaced back in 2014, and it was a huge deal. It was a tiny little flaw in OpenSSL, which is a security tool that, at the time, was being used by a huge chunk of the entire internet to keep communications secure. And the way it worked was, honestly, it was terrifyingly simple. Secure servers send out little heartbeat messages to check if the other computer is still connected. An attacker figured out they could send a tiny 1-byte heartbeat, but lie to the server and say, hey, I just sent you 64 kilobytes. The server, trying to be helpful, would then send back 64 kilobytes of, well, whatever happened to be sitting in its active memory at that exact moment. So what kind of stuff was sitting in that server's memory? Yeah, stuff like this. This isn't a simulation. This is a real example of what Heartbleed leaked. Raw, unencrypted usernames and passwords, your secrets, just spilled out for anyone to grab, all because of one little bug. And you'd think that would be the end of it for 2014, but no. As if Heartbleed wasn't bad enough, later that same year, we got hit with another one called Poodle. This attack cleverly exploited an old, outdated security feature, tricking brand new browsers into downgrading their connection to a much weaker, broken version of SSL, which let attackers steal information. Look, things like Heartbleed and Poodle teach us a really important lesson. Security isn't some destination you arrive at. It's not a finish line. It's this constant, relentless cat-and-mouse game between the people building the protections and the people trying to break them. And it really makes you wonder, in a world that is so completely built on keeping secrets, can any secret truly be kept forever?